Einen wunderschönen guten Tag, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren. Ich begrüße Sie ganz herzlich an den Empfangsgeräten. Wir sitzen heute hier in unserem kleinen Filmfight-Set. Das haben wir ein bisschen umfunktioniert, denn wir haben die große Gelegenheit. Steven, mein sehr geschätzter Kollege Steven und ich, haben die große Gelegenheit, die nicht viele deutsche Journalisten bekommen haben. Und wir dürfen für eine etwas längere Zeit Patty Jenkins und Gadot
für Wonder Woman 84 interviewen. Also einer der Filme, der in den USA jetzt endlich wieder im Kino startet und dann auf HBO Max verlängert wird. Und wir hoffen dann nächstes Jahr im Frühling.
Hoffentlich dann auch bei uns im Kino.
Auch bei uns ins Kino. Und wir sind natürlich sehr gespannt. Wir sind beide ein bisschen aufgeregt, weil das endlich mal wieder ein Interview ist und vor allen Dingen auf Englisch.
Das ist für mich das erste englische Interview seit gefühlt 1 oder 1,5 Jahren.
Seit Jahrzehnten.
Ich habe schon ewig nicht mehr gemacht.
Aber wir rocken das.
Ich habe ein bisschen Schiss, aber ich glaube, ich meine, man will auch einen guten Eindruck hinterlassen.
Ja, das machen wir doch auch.
Ja.
Wir sind noch 2 schmucke Kerlchen, ansonsten lächeln wir die ganze Zeit nur in die Kamera.
Genau, dann sollen die einfach reden.
Ja, genau.
So, wir reden gleich mit Gadot und Patty Jenkins und ihr kriegt hier nochmal einen kurzen Einblick in Wonder Woman 84.
Mein Leben ist nicht so verlaufen, wie Sie vielleicht denken. Wir alle haben unsere Probleme.
Waren Sie schon mal verliebt?
Vor sehr, sehr langer Zeit.
Und Sie? So viele Male, ja, andauernd.
Willkommen in der Zukunft. Das Leben ist gut, aber es kann besser sein. Warum auch nicht? Sie müssen es nur wollen.
Let's talk about something great.
Awesome.
Because we are being optimistic about everything that's going to come up. But this is Daniel. My name is Steven.
Hello.
And we want to thank you for your time. And we want to thank you for putting a bright spot into the future, because we saw the movie and both of us got so excited to be back in a movie theater and especially watching that movie. So thank you for that. It's something that we all needed nowadays. Yeah. And I think we both think it touches a topic that is very important, because the overall message is basically that we have to stick together and work together. And because, I mean, there has been so much discussion about releasing movies in movie theaters. Was that something that you were pushing for? Because it is so much more positive than anything that's been going on or happening, you know, on the streaming services?
We were pushing for it until now. You know, it was sort of as long as we thought there was an inkling of hope that something was happening soon and we could have had a traditional run, we were all for it. When time kept going by and it meant that the theaters trying to survive had nothing to go into them, and so it's crippling them. And the message of our movie, like, what's the reason you make films ultimately? You make them because you want to have communion with an audience. And so somehow it finally got to a place where it was like, this is it. We need to share this movie with an audience and take advantage of, like, trying to, knowing if you have something that puts a smile on somebody's face and talks about, you know, being a hero, let's give it to them. And so that it kind of, everything changed recently when this idea came up. And so suddenly I was super for it, even though I will go back to being theatrical shortly hereafter.
We pray.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision, for sure.
Yeah. I have a question, to both of you, because I didn't or couldn't ask you for the first movie, so I wanted to know now. You created Diana as an upright, as a noble, as a sincere character, instead of making her a broken one, like so many other superheroes. Why did you choose to be Diana, a noble hero, and not a broken one?
You're asking the perfect question. Take it away.
I have a very clear answer. So the truth is, back in the day, post-World War II in particular, there was a real desire to talk about two different sides, you know, like, and so I think that we're in a different world. I think we're in a world where, like, I think we've outgrown the idea that there's a good side and a bad side. It's us. You know, it's us. And so what I love about Wonder Woman is that she's about each of us finding in our own hearts and minds a hero and making heroic choices. And so I think there's been places where superheroes being interesting was just a commentary on trying to make the old model interesting. I think we need to get back to the original model, which is what is the metaphor we need in our times to create true heroes? And that has changed. The metaphor we need is how are we living our lives and what is that causing in this world? Because it's global now. And like, particularly with environmental change, like we need heroes who really can save the day. And so if a superhero movie can both be a great time and a wonderful ride and have a great love story, but also inspire people to find the hero within them so that we can all come together and save the world, that's what I'm all about right now.
Gail, do you want to add something to that, or do you want me to shoot with the next question?
I think you can shoot with the next question. I think it was super precise and she said it all.
Okay. Touching upon what Dania just said, it's really interesting because we have kids, and if you look at their bedrooms, there's so many different male superheroes that you can sort of be a fan of and get merchandise. But from our kids, we know that they are completely in love with Wonder Woman. And we've been talking about it already. Our question would be, what did you want to add in the second outing of Wonder Woman, especially to the character? Because Daniel already said it, she's noble, not broken. But what other character traits did you want to add to the character that would make her even more appealing to a broader audience, especially to kids and to grown-ups?
Yeah, so in the first movie, we really got to establish the character and witness the birth of a hero. Diana discovers her strength and powers and becoming Wonder Woman, but she was the wide-eyed girl, the fish out of water. She didn't understand mankind. And in this one, we wanted to have an opportunity to tell, Diana from a different point, Diana that's been around for decades and decades now, and she understands the complexities of mankind. And not only that, she shares the same perspective and suffers from the same problems that we do as humanity. And I feel like every movie we want to add and reveal more layers to the character. So in the first one we touched, it was the naivete of everything. It was all new. And in the second one, we wanted to add to her complexities and really to start and dig deeper.
And what was the biggest challenge in creating a sequel to a movie which is so well paced and so refreshingly different in, say, male superhero movies we already saw? What was the biggest challenge not to repeat yourself too much?
I think that's exactly it, not to repeat ourselves, to say like we were super happy with the first movie and it was such an incredible experience. But I think both of us said, let's not ever run the risk of doing more of the same. This is more but lesser. So we said it's got to be a completely different movie. We have to start from scratch and aspire to take this character that we love and all of the common things of that, but then expand it into a completely different story with a completely different message and a very different ride so that you would experience something fresh and new. And so that all of us as filmmakers would challenge ourselves to find that new thing as much as we did the first time.
We were talking about it yesterday after we saw the movie, and we would love to talk to you about the male characters in the movie as well, especially the antagonist, because it's really interesting that there's no huge CGI fight sequence as a showdown with him. But, the way that he works, and especially the ending, it's interesting. He seems to be sort of like a messiah person. And our interpretation of the title of the movie is, if you shorten it, and you see that on a couple of posters, it says WW 1984. Is that sort of a metaphor, because you said it earlier, to the times where people were trying to influence a large group of people to follow them in a kind of different way? I mean, is that sort of like a parallel?
It is. I definitely love the fact that he takes over the TVs and he's trying, you know, and he's putting the message out there about what matters. That was so true to those times. Like in 84, like look at what we were celebrating. I even like the fact that a lot of people assume that we're modeling him after one specific person, but the truth is he's modeling himself after all those people. Max Lord is trying to be what the world was telling us at that time mattered most, which was opulence, excess, arrogance, you know, it built on anything, even if it's not true. And so, yeah, I definitely loved the commonality of that. And I also loved it being World War 1984. Like this is the war that didn't happen, you know.
And this is also the reason why you choose 84 as the time where the sequel happens?
It's part of it. I think that 1984 was the quintessential year of the era. There's always one year of every era that kind of wraps it up, and that was the one. It was the height of that belief system, and then the stock market, at least here in the United States, started to go down, and we started having other conflicts that became, you know, slightly different and even starting in 1985. So 1984 just was the place to put it to me.
Gal, it's interesting to see, if you look at the movie, that it's all about wishes and, you know, getting bigger and more power and more wealth. And at the end, it's all about downsizing. Is it important for you as an actress, especially with that character, to be more minimalistic about certain things, especially in your expressions and the way you act and interact with the others? Because I think all those scenes, especially with the comic relief of Chris Pine, were so sweet because you weren't overdoing it. You were sort of trying to be very empathetic and very emotional. Was that something very important to you in portraying her?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that one of the main things that I am obsessing about when I portray Wonder Woman is how do I make her relatable? And because really, how do you make a goddess, you know, the most amazing warrior who is immortal and has it all? How do you make her relatable? None of us can relate to it. And what I found with Diana is that the fact that she has the heart of a human, and the more that I lean into her imperfections and her insecurities and her vulnerability, the more I discover the character and the more I can connect her to everyone else, to, you know, to whoever's going to watch this movie. So yeah, this is something we always talk about, and we make sure that she's not like, I try to avoid playing the grand pathos, you know, if you say pathos. I don't know if you say pathos in English.
In German, you can say it. You can say pathos.
Pathos, yeah. Right? Yeah. So I try to avoid it. Do you say it in English, Jenks?
Pathos. Same. We pronounce it. Yeah, but
German to German. So this is something that, yeah, we always try to ground her. As much as epic as she is, we always try to ground her.
But at that time, she lived so long without Steve. She could also be some kind of cynical, for example, or some kind of, I don't know.
This is something that we really try to avoid.
Yeah.
Because we do take this movie serious enough that the messages that we try to convey to whoever's going to watch the movie is sincere and pure and real. So you can't play it through a cynical or you can't have this tone. So what we go through, what we're trying to aim for is a very hard pocket to get. And this is something that Patty does super great. It's like the sincerity and the pureness of the character. There's no room for cynicism. There's no room for like anything that has any negativity in it. And that's part of the reason that, you know, we're not killing people. The villains, even the villains are like super relatable and complex and not just like black and white, good and bad. Even the villains are relatable and you understand how they got there, and we can easily, each of us can easily have their wants. And even the good is not perfect. So we try to, I don't know if I'm being clear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She wouldn't be able to do her story if she was someone who could go to cynicism. She can go to depression or being lonely or all of those things, but cynicism where would her hope go? That's the only reason she's here, is because she's still believes.
I think that's so great about the movie, that you understand each and everyone's motivation. You know, Kristen's, Pedro's, and yours. Talking about motivation, Patty, the opening sequence is shot amazingly. And we've been discussing and talking about it because, you know, it feels different to the rest of the movie. But at the end, it's a very important message. You know, when Robin Wright and the little girl talk. What was your intention in creating this, you know, this amazing action sort of, you know, heroic sequence to leave her not broken at the end, the little girl, but, you know, get the message across? Because you could have done it differently, or was it important for you to have that?
It's two things. It was, first of all, I thought that message, the fact that Wonder Woman has her own arc, you know, she's not the perfect. I think it's easy with superheroes to fall into a place where they're the static character and the only character with an arc is the villain. And that is, it's kind of a bummer to me, because then your main character emotionally is not really your superhero, you know? So, what I wanted to do was tell the story of what is a hero. It takes your whole life to become a hero, and we're all always getting better at it. And so in this case, even now, Wonder Woman at the top of her powers, it takes the journey of this movie to understand what her aunt was trying to say to her. But also, selfishly, I just was upset that we never got to do the Amazon Olympics in the first movie. And so I was like, I felt that we needed to go back there, because anybody who hadn't seen the first movie wouldn't understand the context of where Diana comes from, which I think is really important. And if we are going to go back there, why not do more than just talking heads? Why not do something joyful where you really see the might that she's trying to put forward, thinking that will be what wins the race, but no, you know, and then that same fight takes place. You know, there are lots of echoes of that in the very end of the movie, where you see that point is now completely understood. So it was you know, it ended up being longer than I'm sure anybody wanted it to be, but nobody was willing to cut any of it. So it was what it was. It was fun. It was a great scene to do.
I mean, it does come full circle, because at the end, Pedro talks to his son as well about the same thing. Basically, truth is stronger.
Yeah, and more important than we all.
Yep. Yeah. Totally.
I have just also one question about another big action scene, which I really liked. I guess it's the equivalent to the No Man's Land scene. It's the truck chase in, I guess, Egypt. And I would like to know, was Raiders of the Lost Ark an inspiration for this? And how much involved were you on the set, Gal? How much did you were in the action between the trucks and everything else?
It was like a basketball game. We throw the ball from me to my stunt team, back to me, back to the stunt team. We couldn't have done this super complex physical, you know, movie without having our amazing, super talented stunt team. Having said that, Patty wanted to make sure we have as least amount of CGI in the movie, which meant that we had to do for real so much more. So you can see it, you know, in the speed and the weight of everything, in our facial expression, that you see that it's us and it's not like a computer face. But I couldn't have never done it by myself. There were so many different shots and a lot of super dangerous shots that were taking there. So it was a collaborative work for sure.
Yeah, and Raiders was definitely an influence. So this movie, I kept saying to everybody, let's make this movie as if we're making a movie in the 80s. I felt like there were some real masters, like clearly Spielberg, but also, you know, Richard Donner and Robert Zemeckis, making these incredible extravaganzas for the whole family that were also great stories. And I feel like that has gone away a little bit. I feel like Pixar does it and things like that. But for the most part, I don't know that superhero movies are always going after 80-year-olds at the same time as they're going after 5-year-olds. And so that was something I was like, we want to be that. We want to harken back to those great whole family, bring your grandmother and come and see this film. And there's something for everyone. And so, yeah, I've studied, you know, Spielberg and Richard Donner and Zemeckis and how they were pulling such incredible things off. So for sure.
You guys, pulled an incredible thing off. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Merry Christmas and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Nichts Gutes wird aus Lügen geboren. Und wahre Größe ist nicht das, was du denkst.